They say every hospital has its ghosts, but St. Luke's is different. If you talk to the night staff, the ones who really know these halls when the lights go out, they'll tell you about her, the nurse who never left. Some call her an angel, some call her a curse, but no one dares say her name out loud once the clock strikes midnight. It started as an urban legend among orderlies and overnight security, a whisper you'd hear in the staff break room at 3 a.m. when the coffee tastes stale and you're too tired to trust your own eyes. They say her name was Margaret Price. Back in 1973, she was one of St. Luke's youngest head nurses, dedicated, compassionate, the kind of nurse you'd want holding your hand when your lungs are failing and the morphine's wearing off.
They say she was always there, the first to arrive, the last to leave, and some nights, she never left at all. Margaret didn't have kids. She didn't have family. This hospital was her life. And in the end, it's where she died. In the spring of '73, an outbreak of a deadly pneumonia tore through the respiratory ward. It hit patients, then the doctors, then the nurses. Some ran, some quit, but not Margaret. She worked for days without rest, changing linens, draining lungs, comforting the dying while her own cough grew worse. When they finally found her, she was slumped over an empty hospital bed, the sheets stained with blood she had coughed up herself. Her ID badge was still pinned to her scrubs. After her death, St. Luke's locked down that wing. It was cheaper to abandon it than to renovate it. Over time, the old respiratory ward fell into ruin. Flickering lights, peeling paint, old metal beds covered in dust. But the stories didn't die.
Years later, in the late 90s, a night janitor named Joe Simmons was making his rounds when he heard someone humming near the locked ward, a soft lullaby echoing through the hallway. He swore he saw the silhouette of a nurse standing at the far end of the corridor, cap, white dress, hair pinned tight. He called security, but when they arrived, the hall was empty, and Joe quit the next morning. A few months after that, a patient recovering from surgery claimed a nurse with cold hands sat by her bed every night, holding her pulse, whispering prayers. But there was no nurse assigned to that room. When the patient described the woman, pale skin, dark hair, old-fashioned uniform, the staff recognized the story. At first, it was just that, stories. Strange things you could laugh off over graveyard shift coffee. But then it got worse. In 2007, a young ER doctor named Emily Carson was assigned a rotation in the overnight trauma unit. She'd always heard the rumors, but never believed any of that crap. Emily was ambitious, skeptical, the kind of doctor who'd rather trust a blood test than a ghost story. But then she started seeing things she couldn't explain. One night, while charting patient vitals, she saw a woman in a white uniform standing in the observation room just beyond the glass. Emily waved. The woman didn't move. Emily got up, pushed open the door. No one was there. She brushed it off as sleep deprivation, but then the ICU monitors began beeping in the middle of the night. Patients who were alone in their rooms claimed they felt a cold hand on their chest, like someone checking for breath. One old man told Emily in a voice raspy from the ventilator, "The angel nurse is here for me. I can rest now." He flatlined 20 minutes later. A week later, the security cameras glitched, or at least that's what the staff told themselves. A grainy figure appeared on the feed from the old wing, a nurse walking between empty beds. The timestamp read 3:03 a.m. When they checked the wing, the padlock on the door was open, dangling loose. One of the most chilling incidents happened to a rookie guard named Daniel Watts.
He was fresh out of the army, tough as hell, the kind of guy who scoffed at ghost stories. One night, he bet the other guards $50 he'd spend an hour in the abandoned respiratory ward alone. He went in with a flashlight and a GoPro strapped to his vest. When they found him at sunrise, he was sitting in the corner, rocking back and forth, whispering to someone who wasn't there. The GoPro footage showed him talking to a woman in the dark, but there was no one visible on camera. Just his voice pleading, "Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make her mad." Daniel quit and moved across the country. He never talked about what he saw.
Over the years, people tried to bury the legend. St. Luke's was sold to a new healthcare corporation, rebranded, given a fresh coat of paint. But the stories slipped through the cracks, like a cold draft under a locked door. Nurses who work the night shift still leave a cup of water on the counter near the old ward, an old superstition. They say it's Margaret's drink, in case she's tired from her rounds. A young nursing student once made the mistake of mocking the ritual. She bragged to the others that ghosts were for old-timers and cowards. That same week, she stayed late to finish paperwork. The next morning, they found her unconscious in the hallway outside the old wing. She claimed she'd seen a woman standing at the end of the corridor, blocking her way, a nurse with black, hollow eyes and lips that moved like she was praying. But when she opened her mouth to speak, only blood came out. People wonder why Margaret stays. Some say she's trapped, a soul so bound to her patients that even death couldn't free her. Others think she's not really a ghost at all, but something worse, a memory that the building itself refuses to let go. Some believe the hospital needs her. A place that's witnessed so much suffering demands a caretaker, even if that caretaker has been dead for decades.
There's an old letter, yellowed and fragile, tucked away in the basement archives. A copy of Margaret's final note to the hospital board. It reads, "No one dies alone, not on my watch. If my body fails me, my promise won't." Security guards who patrol the graveyard shift say they sometimes see a flicker of white at the far end of the corridor, the edge of an old nurse's cap disappearing around the corner. Sometimes they hear footsteps echoing behind them, only to turn and find the hall empty. Some nights, the staff still hear humming in the vents, a soft lullaby, a gentle shh, like someone calming a restless child. So next time you find yourself alone in a hospital room at 3 a.m. and you feel cold fingers brush your forehead, maybe it's not the air conditioning. Maybe Margaret's there checking to see if you're ready to go. Maybe she's come to hold your hand until the end. Are you sure you'd want to see her face? Are you sure you'd want to feel her breath on your cheek when you close your eyes? And the scariest part isn't that she's real. The scariest part is that everyone in St. Luke's knows she will never leave. She'll be there long after you're gone, long after your grandchildren are gone, long after this building crumbles to dust. So tell me, do you really think this is just an old ghost story? Or do you hear her footsteps now, just outside your door? If you've ever felt like someone was watching you while you slept in a hospital bed, maybe it wasn't your imagination. So go on, leave a light on tonight, and tell me in the comments, do you believe in the nurse who never left? Or are you brave enough to say her name when the clock hits 3:03 a.m.? Make sure you subscribe, but hey, be careful. Are you sure you're alone right now? If you enjoyed this creepy story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more chilling tales every week. Stay spooky!